everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We are very excited to be our first official episode of the podcast post Christmas. This is so exciting. We did it. We made it through. We enjoyed our season of Christmas, and now we're on to Winterfest. Oh no, change.
Buzzer sound.
That's right. We are on New Year's new movies. We're previewing it, and who better to join me to do this but Gregg McBride, screenwriter Gregg McBride. Greg, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. But as I remind you every time I'm on, Rachel, I prefer the moniker supermodel to screenwriter.
Okay, that's right.
All right.
Yeah, well, you just have to keep reminding me. I'm too busy these days.
I'm such a supermodel. That's why Rachel wanted to do this audio only. So I get the hint, Rachel. But nonetheless, I'm happy to be here. You know, I love Hallmarkies podcast, and doing the live watch party with you guys was so fun this year. If for whoever hasn't done that, it seriously is. It's such a nice community. I have to say, like, it really, everyone was so welcoming. So thank you.
Well, what if you are not aware, we have our Patreon group, and for only $2 a month, you can join in and you get a watch along every month with talent like Gregg McBride, and we watch the movie together, and we get to ask questions and get behind the scenes details. It's really fun, and we have a really fun one coming up for January. We have our first actress that is going to be in the watch along, and Natalie Hall is going to be with us to watch her movie Winter Princess. And so that should be very fun because that's a funny, kind of goofy movie more than the typical Hallmark movie, like has more of a sense of humor than some of the other ones. And so I think that's going to be a lot of fun to talk to her about it. And she's so great. I love her so much. And so anyway, if you've been waiting, you've been on the fence, now's the time to dive in and become a patron.
And I'll add, like, celebrities are fun, and the January watch is a much better get than screenwriter or supermodel Gregg McBride. But I have to say, just everyone in the group is so nice. Like, it was such a lovely experience, especially during the year of COVID, and we're all sick to death of group calls or Zoom calls or whatever. And I have to say, it was such a nice evening. So yeah, people do it, everyone.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for doing that, because it was really fun. But were you able to catch any of the new Christmas movies at all this season?
I'm still working my way through them.
Mm-hmm.
To be quite honest.
Yeah. Did you think from what you saw, did you think it was a pretty good season?
Yeah. I mean, listen, under the COVID conditions, my gosh, I can't believe they pulled it off, you know?
Me too. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, the fact that between Lifetime and Hallmark, they made over 70 movies is just, it's amazing.
Yeah, and watching them, it's not like you could, it's not like the cast seems small or that, you noticed hand sanitizer in every shot. I mean, it really, I thought that, you wouldn't know that they did it. What were some of your favorites?
I loved Deliver by Christmas. I thought that was really good. I really liked The Christmas Waltz.
Yeah, that was a great one.
That was really good. I loved on Lifetime Christmas Ever After. That was really good. And Sweet and Spicy Holiday on Lifetime. That was really fun. And so, yeah, I think it was a pretty, in general, even though, like, there weren't that many that I really disliked. Like, most of them I would watch again. I mean, and I can't always say that every year.
No, it's true.
So
that's a real test, actually, too, isn't it? Just that you would actually watch it again.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, as you mentioned, they have changed the moniker, the theming from Winterfest to New Year, New Movies. And I mean, it kind of makes sense because I feel like that's a sort of tie-in to Countdown to Christmas. It kind of flows more because you're kind of getting that crowd into New Year's and everything. But I don't feel like it's as catchy as Winterfest.
I feel like Winterfest was great, and especially for us Hallmark fans and Christmas fans, like, we're always a little sad. So I think to give Winterfest that moniker really worked. And it's funny, we're going to preview the movies, but none of the movies were made with this moniker. We know that not even the New Year's one was, since that's been delayed.
Right.
But I feel like all these movies are a reflection of Winterfest. So part of me feels like if you're going to roll this out, let the movies reflect it as well. And I agree too. Like Winterfest, especially to the Hallmark crowd, it sort of rolls off the tongue, and like, new year, new you, no, new movies, new something. Like it's just
Yeah,
like,
it's
wait,
not as
is
good.
this a Weight Watchers commercial? What's happening here?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Uh,
And I don't
okay.
need reminded of that, Rachel.
That's right. So, all right. Well, we're going to preview them nonetheless. And we always, in these Winterfest previews, we give a preview rating of a snowflake. So it's 1 for not excited, 5 for very excited. I think it's going to be great. So let's dive in. So
Let's
the
do it.
first movie is Taking a Shot at Love, and this is Alexa Penavega and Luke McFarlane in the leads. And it's directed by Kevin Fair, who's done tons of these movies. And it is written by Julie Sherman Wolfe, who we love. She's great. And the summary is Jenna, a former professional dancer, uses ballet to help a hockey player get back on the ice. And I don't know if you got a chance to watch the little preview, but what do you think about this idea?
Well, I would like to change the summary to Jenna, a former pole dancer. I just feel like that spices it up. And by the way,
Yeah,
for any
let's
kids
spice it
listening,
up.
I referenced the North Pole. No, you know what? All kidding aside, like, of all the Winterfest movies, of all the New Year new movies,
Yeah,
this I'm most excited about.
yeah.
The trailer is cute. It's got a cast that is really solid. As you say, the writer is wonderful, and the director, and you can just tell this is going to deliver, even from watching the trailer. And it's all the reasons that we love Hallmark movies. And I love that even, the hockey angle is a little bit different, because I find
Mm,
in Hallmark movies, sometimes this is true more for the past, but sometimes the male is more of an ornament than an active part of the story. And so I feel like this feels very organic, and it's what romantic comedies are made of, right? Like, we know this oil and vinegar is going to be the perfect mix, and it's just going to be fun to watch how everything comes together. So I got to tell you, I hate to do it, but right off the bat, 5 snowflakes.
yeah, I agree. I think this one looks really cute. I mean, it feels almost sort of those cutting edge kind of vibes, even though it's ballet dancer versus a figure skater in that movie. I don't know. I feel like it's sort of that same dynamic of you got the alpha hockey player doing ballet is a funny idea. And Luke McFarlane is very charming. I do think there is a pretty big age gap between him and Alexa Penavega. And so I wonder a little bit about the chemistry, but I hope it'll be there. But pretty confident in Julie's writing, and she always brings out the humor, and I feel like this has potential to be very funny. So I'm gonna give it 4 snowflakes for this one.
Wow, we're off to a
So
strong start.
I know it's very good. I mean, in general, Winterfest is pretty strong for me. Last year was, I mean, 2020 was not my favorite. They had the Maze movie, which I hated. And but yeah, normally I like the season quite a bit. So but next we have a New Year's resolution, and this was again supposed to be part of Countdown to Christmas 2019, and they got rid of it and never explained why. We have no
Yeah, we
idea
actually
why.
talked about it on
Mhm.
last year's New Year's show. That's right, folks. This is my third New Year's
Third.
show with Hallmarkies
Right.
podcast.
Yes. And so yeah, we've been hearing about this for a while. We've been talking about it for a while, but it stars Amy Teagarden and Michael Rady, and it's directed by Leslie Demetriadis, and she was also did a watch along with us. And she was her and producer Kevin Duda, both of them were helming the last year's fan favorite Two Turtle Doves, and they're both great. I love them so much. And this is also written by Sarah Montana, who also did Two Turtle Doves and Love to the Rescue. She had a miss this Christmas season. For most people, I know we're not big fans of CCB's Christmas movie this year, which Sarah wrote. And everybody has their off day, so that's okay. She's had some
Well,
really
as a
strong
fellow writer, I can
movies.
tell you that sometimes the script is glorious and then the notes
Yeah,
happen or a
right.
director can make changes. So we won't blame her because she's had a lot of wonderful stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm
And
really fascinated to see this because I know
yeah,
you haven't given the plot yet, but I wonder, was it just sort of a scheduling craziness, last minute,
yeah,
whatever, and that stuff
me
does
too.
happen at Hallmark Channel as it happens everywhere, or was there some reason? So, like, I kind of want to like be a detective while I watch this and try and figure out why it wasn't on last year.
I know, me too. Me too. It's when a morning show producer makes a New Year's resolution to say yes more, she crosses paths with a confirmed yes man who just might hold the key to her biggest story and to her heart. That's a good summary. And I
That's
asked
maybe.
Leslie when I was talking to her, I said, "Why do you have any idea why it was pulled?" And I was like, is there anything that, is it like edgy in a certain way, or is there any reason?" And because it was right around where they were having all the Zola mess and everything, and I was like, is there any reason why they pulled it? And she was like, no, I have no idea. It's just she couldn't figure out. And so it'll be interesting to see what it is. And I am a little bit worried about chemistry on this one because I think it also has a pretty big age gap between Amy Teagarden and Michael Rady. But I do admittedly struggle a little bit with Amy because I just know her so well from Friday Night Lights, and she was a teenager in that show, and she was a very unlikable teenager, and I just have to get over that. I have to just accept her as a. It's hard when you're so used to somebody, and it's so unfair. But when you're so
Well, and
used to
that's just
somebody,
yeah, that's just an attribute to her acting.
yeah,
I'm with you though. When I watch the trailer, it seems like it should be working more than it is. And maybe it's just the trailer, but maybe there is a little bit of a chemistry gap. So that will be interesting. But you know what? It's a really cute idea. I love when they do New Year's movies, and they've had some misses on New Year's movies too. But I think the first time I did this annual show,
mm-hmm.
their New Year's movie was a little weak. But
Yeah,
uh so it's a great premise, and as you say, it's got some really talented people behind the scenes,
mm-hmm.
so it's going to be interesting to see. But I can't tell. I'm going to give it 2.5 stars, or 2.5 snowflakes, excuse me.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I'm curious. I wish I could know why they didn't have this one first. You would think you would want to have the New Year's focused movie on the second.
Rachel, this is Hollywood. Stop making sense. Thank you. Moving on, people. Ignore
Okay.
her. She's had too much eggnog.
That's right. Okay, so then we have two for the win. Oh, I didn't say my score. So I will give it three snowflakes.
Reese, okay. I
Yeah.
interrupted you. I apologize. Although
No,
I will
no.
do it 12 more times in the next 12 minutes.
Okay, so then we have two for the win, and this stars Charlotte Sullivan, who is new to Hallmark, but she has done lots of. It seemed like there were a lot of police type shows.
A lot of
Those kind of
procedural.
procedurals. Yeah, that's the word. She's done Rookie Blue and shows like that. And then Trevor Donovan is in this, and it's director Jerry Sicconetti, and it
Easy for
has
you to say.
writer Andrea Canning and Nina Wyman are working on this one. And it's a world champion ski racer and local ski instructor find romance on the slopes as he returns home and prepares for the biggest race of his life. And in the little thing on Hallmark YouTube, they interview. I guess he has ski racing experience. Trevor Donovan, that he had actually done that before.
According to the behind the scenes, the
Yeah.
DVD extras, yeah.
Um, and so yeah, it's what do you think about this one?
Well, first of all, I feel like it's really, and I know that sometimes this just happens, but you could take out ski racer and insert professional hockey player. Like
Yeah.
that this is airing so close to Take a Shot of Love is a little odd to me because it's
Uh-huh.
kind of the same plot. Um, I'm I'm a little more wary of this only because first of all I always love it when there's somebody new in a lead role in a Hallmark movie. I feel like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I love our tried and true. But it's really fun to see somebody step into the role and bring some,
Yeah.
new perspective to it. So I'm excited to see what Charlotte Sullivan does. And it's always hard. What is available for preview right now is the behind the scenes, and it's a little tough to get a feel for the movie from those because those are always directed. Like that's always saying, say,
Right.
remind us that you're a downhill racer and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So, which listen is part
Yeah.
of the fun. But I'm not sure about this one. So again, for me, 2.5 snowflakes.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one, it seems like it's going to have more of a small town festival and like returning home kind of
You mean like
element.
Winterfest? Okay, go on.
Yeah, like Winterfest, than taking a shot at love, which seemed like it's more going to be about the hockey versus ballet kind of dynamic. But yeah, they do seem like somewhat similar. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I think and having Andrew Canning and Nina Wyman involved makes me more interested because I really like both of them in the script. So I will give it 3 snowflakes. I'm just being super in the middle of this episode.
Well, listen, it's hard to tell, right? But
Yeah,
you're right.
it
I
is.
mean, Nina's a great writer. So yeah, it's gonna, it'll be fun to see. I think my little bit of fear for Two for the Win is it could almost be a parody at this point. Do you know what I mean? It just seems like
Yeah.
super what Hallmark is, and the sort of, Saturday Night Live did that great spoof several years ago with James Franco. And
Yeah.
the reason it was so funny is it was spot on.
Right.
And so I almost feel like this is a little spot on. But that being said, I love spot on when it comes to romance. So this could end up being really fun. So
I,
we'll have to see.
yeah, I don't love the name. Don't love the title. 2 for the win. That's just
Again, parody.
yeah. All right. So then we have Love in the Alps.
Right. That's not
And
parody, for God's sake.
yeah, I feel like they've had a movie called Love in the Alps, but who knows? So this is Nazneen Contractor. So she did her first Hallmark movie this last Christmas season. So excited to have her back. And Brooke Starnell, who's done 2, one Lifetime, one Hallmark Christmas movie. And director Stephen R. Monroe and writer S.W. Sessions. They've both done a bunch. And it's when an average guy is gifted a luxury trip, he is mistaken as a millionaire, but then sparks fly with the lovely concierge. Will she feel the same way about him when she learns the truth?
I'm going to say no, because Hallmark women always want to marry for the money. Yep.
Yeah, they're usually pretty cold-hearted like that. So, and this is a diverse cast, so that's nice.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think it sounds kind of fun. I think it could be fun if the characters are kind of likable and
yeah, I think you know what, and this will be the same for Two for the Win. I think with something like this, it's really going to come down to the leads. You know what I mean? Can they? I don't want to say lift the material, but again, there's a little bit of a paint by numbers aspect here, which again is not wrong. That's all
right.
romantic comedies are that way. You introduce oil and vinegar, and then we're going to take a ride with them.
Right.
But to keep it from being a little bit, you know, pedestrian, you want to count on the lead actors to really sort of lift it and give us some subtext, even
Mhm.
with their dialogue. So it'll be, it'll be interesting to see if
Yeah.
they can find love in the Alps. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I am going to give this one 2.5. I'm in the middle on it, but I hope it'll be great.
I'll be watching, and I'm going to give it 2 snowflakes.
Okay. All right. So then we have Snow Kissed. This is Jen Lilly and Chris McNally, who seem like a great pairing to me. They're both pretty fun actors, and I don't know, I just like them both a lot. And director Jeff Beasley, travel averse journalist, chases her dream assignment where she unwittingly finds herself mentoring a handsome bed and breakfast owner who wants to be a tour guide.
It
So,
sounds a lot like our story, Rachel. Should we have our lawyers call? I feel like it's a little close to
yeah,
home.
yeah, that's what's going on. Um, yeah, I mean, the idea of kind of being mentored to be a tour guide, that doesn't sound like a fair, like that seems like a pretty basic job to need a mentor for. But I just really like Jen Lilly and Chris McNally. I mean, they seem like a really good pairing. So that uh and I haven't liked all of her movies. There's been a few duds, but for the most part, I like her and her movies. And Chris McNally is so charming. So just on them alone, I the summary doesn't do a whole lot for me, but we'll see. That could be kind of funny. Her being travel averse, being if she's kind of a manic kind of character, that could be funny.
I
Um,
agree. I agree. They're starting to push in some movies the comedy
yeah.
envelope a little more, which is really nice to see. And that's what I hope happens here. And I'm going to give Snowkissed 4 snowflakes because I agree. I think the pairing of Jen and Chris, I'm on first name basis
Mhm.
with them, even though I've never met them. Um, that just sounds really good to me. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I even love the title. I mean, it just, I agree the log line is a little bit, but I'm going to go with 4 snowflakes. I have a good feeling about the Snow Kissed.
Hopefully we'll end Near's new movies on a good note because yeah, I'm also going to give it 4. Hopefully it'll be great. All right, we have only one mystery that we know of right now in January. There may be more announced, but right now we have ships in the night, a Martha's Vineyard mystery. This is the third, I believe, of these series. It has Jesse Metcalf, Sarah Lind, and Chelsea Hobbs, director Mark Jean, writer Gillian Harvath, and it's when an art gallery robbery leads to the death of the contemptible gallery manager, former Boston detective Jeff Jackson teams up with local doctor and old flame Dr. Z Medeiros to catch the killer. So, what do you think about this? Does that sound like a good mystery?
Hmm. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually liked both of the previous ones. I thought were pretty good, and so the uh, I mean, it's pretty basic art gallery.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
Robbery.
I tease, I tease. If you watch the trailer, it's fun, and it looks like there's a few, dangerous by Hallmark movies and mystery standards moments,
Yeah.
which is fun. I think,
Uh-huh.
I like the packages they present, so I feel like it's the same thing we've sort of been talking about. Like it feels a little paint by numbers, but I'm optimistic. It's got a
I hope
decent
that the
cast.
I hope that the contemptible gallery owner is a little dishy, is a little, like fun.
A
I
little
mean, he
really
dies, but
contemptible.
still. Yeah, but it would be kind of like, these kind of mysteries are usually the best when there's like a tiny bit of camp in them
Yeah,
and they don't take themselves super seriously. And so that would be funny if he's just like a total Scrooge.
yeah, yeah.
So,
We'll see. I'm gonna
yeah.
give this one 3 snowflakes.
Okay. Yeah, since I liked the previous two, I will agree. All right. So that's our preview, but we last
What
year
was that the preview of, Rachel? What was it?
New Year's new movies.
Oh, very good. Gold
Ah!
star for Rachel.
um, so last year we talked about When Harry Met Sally because there was our New Year's movie had gotten canceled the year before. We talked about the actual Hallmark New Year's movie, and so we thought it'd be fun to talk about another sort of New Year's esque type movie. And you had suggested while you were sleeping, and I was very excited when you suggested that because it is a movie that I love and adore. And so it was really fun. It's always a different experience. I don't know if you felt this at all, but when you're watching something, preparing for discussion, and to have things taking notes and things like that, it's just a different experience than when I'm just hanging out watching it. And you notice things that you didn't ever notice before.
Yeah, for sure. I've probably watched this movie 5,000 times. It first of all, it's the perfect post-Christmas, pre-New Year's movie because that's exactly when it takes place.
Right.
And it's always a little sad for us Christmas movie junkies to have to, even if you watch Christmas movies after Christmas, it can be a little sad. So this is really perfect. And this is one of those perfect movies. As a writer, like I hold this up as the gold standard. I think it's such a beautiful movie, and it's really about love of all kinds. And yes, when you watch it, analyzing it, which I've done several times as a writer, you do see it differently. And sometimes that can weaken a movie for you because you start to see a little bit of the mechanics behind the scenes. Even if it's a great movie, you're studying different things. But there's a reason why we're talking about this movie so many years later. I mean, this one holds up. It made Sandra Bullock a star. It really is credited with making Bill Pullman a star as well. He had done several movies before this that just didn't quite catch for him. But this one really did. And not that they both weren't very popular and working, but this, just sort of catapulted them. But the whole cast is wonderful. The premise, it's so kind of goofy, but it's a great hook and it just works on all levels.
Yeah, I think I like to use the word perfect because, I mean, technically there are, of course, no perfect movies. But I think if you're asking, does a movie do what it sets out to do? Then I don't know how you don't answer in the case of this movie. Absolutely. It's completely succeeds in doing what it sets out to do. And I think it is perfect in that sense of just being very, very, very satisfaction. It makes you just smile. You love watching it. And I think that the thing that it does so well is that you are immediately attached to Lucy, Sandra Bullock's character. Immediately, you're rooting for her. You want her to be happy. And she just, I think almost anybody can relate to how lonely she is as a character. And you just want her to get that darn stamp in her passport and to be happy and to not be so alone. And that starts from the very beginning because she's lonely, but in such a positive way. And it just makes you root for her.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Rachel, because it's not written or played that she's a loser or that she had
Yeah.
some terrible, social incident from her high school that she's somehow broken. And in fact, she is such a strong character because she wants to get that passport and go out there. She wants to make her wishes come true on herself, right? It's not like she's like, oh, I need a man like I need an oxygen tank. And then, she's got her secret crush and, things happen as they do. But you're right. She's such a strong character, so likable from the beginning. And, again, I think that's not only a testament to the writing and the direction, but also to Sandra Bullock, who just, she's so likable and such a good actor. And one of the best ways to test acting is to not be able to tell they're acting, right? And she just brings Lucy to life.
Yeah, she really does. And you feel so just connected to her. And I feel like this movie, and maybe even a little bit like Speed and just some of her earlier films, she did such a good job of making us bond with her as an actress. And there were so many like not great movies, but like even within in her not great movies, I still loved her. I've never not loved her in a movie. Like she's just so likable and lovely. And even when she does sort of darker fare, something like say Bird Box or whatever it might be, like you just are always rooting for her, and you feel like, oh, that's Sandra, our friend, is back.
Yeah, there's a real everyman quality, less now than there was back then, but you're right, it's completely stuck. And
Uh-huh.
we feel such an affinity with her. And I think that's always been true for her. I don't know if you remember this totally random movie that she was in earlier than this called Love Potion Number 9.
Mm-hmm.
And she just always, there was just always this affinity you felt with her, even though she's very beautiful and funny and all this stuff, but you're just like, wow, you know what? I feel like she would be a friend of mine. So I
Right,
want
that
her
we
to
would get
win.
along. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's true. It really is. And I just like the way that this movie kind of talks about loneliness. And I think that whether you're single or married or whatever, I think that anybody can relate to that feeling. Like we all experience times of loneliness as humans, and I think that's what makes this, because it's a ridiculous premise, let's be honest. I mean, this whole elaborate lie and everything is kind of ridiculous, but it's it works because you like the character so much, and it kind of harkens back to the old screwball comedies
Oh yeah,
of
there's a real madcapness to it. And I think one of the things that makes it strong is that it happens in a relatively short amount of time. It's not like, this thing has to be elongated
yeah,
for weeks.
right.
Um, and then also just back to her loneliness, like she's lonely, but she's not dysfunctional, right? She's even got her friendship with her boss, and
Uh-huh.
she, who she talks to and confides in, and it's just she hasn't quite reached that breakthrough, right? As is shown at the hot dog stand. There's little things like that where
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of funny moments, but it does define her character. And again, that's such a testament to the writing in this movie, is that as silly and madcap as it is, every character is really strong. Even the landlord's son, who is kind of hilarious, and that, he's in the closet and he wants to try things on, and he's kind of gross at first, but like by the end of the movie, you just love him for being him. And gosh, that's a concept we're seeing now in movies, right? Like to do that in the 90s, I think was really delightful. You really didn't hate anyone in that movie.
Yeah. Agreed. And yeah, it's really an ensemble piece, as much as we love, Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman, but yeah, all of the supporting characters, Peter Boyle and Glynis Johns,
Oh
and
yeah.
I mean, incredible.
Even the fiance, Allie,
It, oh yeah, she's hilarious, Ally Walker.
yeah, is just terrific. And, Peter Gallagher's great. And, the little sister's wonderful. Like there's just such a richness to it, it's very layered. And so again, you have this kind of madcap hook, but then what supports it? What
Yeah.
lifts it? We talked about that we're hoping to see in some of the New Year, New Movies.
Yeah.
Um, so I think this just really is such a good example of that. And again, it's why it's why it holds up. And it's, you ask any writer and they'll talk about this movie.
Yeah. So as we get introduced to Peter, and she describes him as her Prince Charming, and she says, "We've never actually spoken, but somehow I know we will meet." And then she finds out she has to work Christmas from her boss, and he says, "You're the only one who is alone." And I love their dynamic throughout the movie. Her and her boss, it's so funny.
It's a great
Yeah,
dynamic, and he's not even in it that much. You know what I
no,
mean?
but
Maybe
it's
5
funny.
minutes total, but is an essential element. You
Yeah,
know.
Lucy, they have doctors for this kind of thing. Um, so he gets mugged and thrown onto the tracks. The muggers leave, and she jumps onto the tracks. She saves his life, and then she goes to see him in the hospital. They won't let her in. And she says, I was going to marry him. And then the nurse thinks that she is the fiance. And the whole family then bursts in. And like I said, I love Glynis Johns as the grandma of the family. Elsie, she's so funny. And of course she was like a Hollywood legend, Glynis Johns. And I just thought she was, because of course she was in Mary Poppins. And I just thought she was really funny in this.
I agree.
Mhm.
And you know what? I love that element of While You Were Sleeping. As somebody from a really severely broken childhood,
Mhm.
um, I always yearned for family, and I
Yeah.
never quite knew what that meant. And I love that this film celebrates that, and like all of a sudden to be part of the family, even with, the warts and blemishes and all that stuff, it just really, this film is a testament to that as well. And it's a real love story about family,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful thing. And so again, it's, we talk about her character being lonely, but it goes beyond just that, oh, I wish I was married thing. It's not the Cinderella situation where a glass slipper will fix everything. It's
Mhm.
it really does resonate.
Well, and when they find Lucy, the family has really kind of found Peter again, because you definitely get the impression that he's been distant and not involved in the family, and that's hard when you have that distance between a family, and you really feel it. You miss the people that there's the
Yeah, I would
distance
say that's
with, and
true for both of the sons in the family, right? Like,
that's
she
true.
sort of brings them both home again.
Yeah, that's true. And so then, and Saul says that, it says you saved his life. In fact, you saved the whole family. And I like when the dad says, this smiles at their caps, $600 a tooth. That was funny. And it is a funny script too. It makes you laugh throughout the beginning. And I love her little speech to Peter that night when she says, "Do you believe in love at first sight? Nah, I bet you don't. You're probably too sensible for that. Or have you ever like seen somebody and you knew that if only that person really knew you, they would of course dump the perfect model that they were with and realize that you were the one that they wanted to just grow old with. Have you ever fallen in love with someone you haven't even talked to? Have you ever been so alone you spend the night confusing a man in a coma?" And I think that is such a lovely little speech. You're just getting to know the character so well by that point.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's still pretty early in the movie. This movie, that's another great thing about it, is the setup does not is, about 3 minutes, and then you're off to the races,
Mhm.
literally.
Yeah. So then we find out she runs into his colleague at the law office. We find out about his accident. It's just funny.
Right, and essential for later.
Right. And so then she's talking to her boss, and he says, if you tell them now, then you might as well shoot grandma. and
I'm
and we
digging your interpretation,
yeah,
Rachel. I think we might have to do a live, one of those charity things that are so
yeah.
popular now, where they bring the cast together, but instead it'll be us playing every role.
If anybody wants to sponsor that, we're up for it.
We're available.
Okay. And so then Saul tells her that he knows, so he becomes kind of her confidant within the family, and that is Jack Warden playing Saul. And I think that that's a really fun dynamic.
And another national treasure, right? He's so wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. And so then she goes over there for Christmas morning, and I just love them opening presents. And there's like, who the heck is Uncle Al? I don't even know who Uncle Al is. And there was always, growing up, I feel like there was a lot of times just some like weird present from somebody like, what? Who is this
Yeah.
person again? You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
That's really funny.
Yeah. And then, of course, the moment, though, where they have a gift for her, again, is
Yeah.
just, and they grabbed something from the gift closet or whatever it
Right.
is. But, we all can relate to that on certain levels, it just, again, it resonates.
Yeah. And I like Saul, he's like 7 bow ties.
Huh.
That's so funny. So then Jack shows up, and I never really realized until I was taking notes that we don't meet Jack until 30 minutes into the movie,
Yep.
which
Which,
is
as any writer
interesting.
will tell you, is a turning point. Page
Uh-huh.
30, minute 30, something's got to happen.
Uh-huh.
Enter Jack.
Yeah. It seems kind of interesting though for so late into this to the rom-com to then meet the leading man at 30 minutes. I thought that was interesting. Um the then we get the whole scene at church, which is I love too. They're like, I like mass better in Latin. It's nicer when you don't know what they're saying.
Yeah, there's some really great lines.
Yeah. I also love when she gets Peter's wallet and he has these ridiculous pictures of him with sporting equipment, with like skis and, tennis racket and stuff. I'm like, who gets photos like that if you're not like an actor who needs like a headshot or whatever? Like I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're
It's kind of
trying to show
funny.
he's a narcissist, but my
Yeah.
gosh, there's such a time capsule element to that, right?
Yeah.
Like, pictures in the wallet, what? And
That's
you
true.
think back. Remember when they used to sell those little like cellophane sleeves, and you could have like
Mhm.
6 pictures in your
Yeah,
wallet?
I know. Yeah, and you don't even have any of your loved ones at all. You just have pictures of yourself in your wall.
You're saying that's a bad thing, Rachel? That my only pictures in my phone are of me? All right,
I know.
duly noted.
I know that for a fact. The only pictures in your wallet are of Latte, your dog. So
Well, that's
and
true.
your
Guilty as
cat,
charged.
and your cat. So then she goes to feed the cat, and then Jack, he's immediately skeptical of her, and doesn't believe that she's really engaged to Peter. And he talks to Joe Jr. and he thinks that Joe Jr. says that he's dating her, and so Jack starts questioning her, and what's his favorite ice cream, what's all these different questions, and that's when she tells the story about the accident, and so that they believe her. And you get the whole scene with her hiding Joe Jr. in the closet, which she said that was hilarious. I was like, Dad, you're trying on my shoes? What are you doing? uh, and we learn here that Jack, he actually doesn't want to be working for the family business, that he wants to be making rocking chairs. And that immediately, so now you've gotten to know more about his character. And the script takes time to give them time to just talk, and they have such great chemistry, the two of them. I love when he says about the sofa into the house, and he's like, I'm gonna try an old trick. I'm gonna push it really hard.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great moment, and like the moment where she has to show that she knows the car. It's just,
Yeah.
again, it's very much a recall to some of these older black and white movies, and just the sparring that goes on,
Yeah.
and it's lovely. It's just
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah, and this whole scene when he walks her back, and so they're just talking, and it just feels so natural. When he says, you need a better coat, and he says, it's my dad's coat, and he must be freezing. Like, that's good dialogue there. And that's when he finds out about her passport and that she wants to go to Florence. And she literally I don't know if you would literally have it in your pocket of your coat if you didn't have a trip planned for your passport. But she says she's ready to go at any minute, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wants
And
to get out of there.
I love the scene when they're slipping on the ice. And that's such a good way of getting them to be sort of more intimate with each other, to get closer to each other without it seeming skeevy. Because it is kind of, it's a tricky balance this movie has to make, because she's engaged for all he knows. And so if he was like coming on real strong, that would be creepy and weird. So they have to kind of create moments of intimacy that feel natural, but don't feel like, this person's cheating on his
Right,
brother,
because
kind of thing.
we don't want to dislike him. And
Yeah.
when we're first introduced to the guy in the coma, as far as we know, he's going to be our leading man,
Right. Yeah.
right? And the actor, his teeth glisten when he smiles, or twinkle. And so, it's that kind of changeover. And I even love that Bill Pullman isn't quite cover model
Yeah.
esque as his brother's character,
Yeah.
or as his character's brother, excuse me.
Yeah.
So even that aspect of it is kind of nice. But boy, by the end, you got a little crush there on Bill Pullman.
Definitely. Definitely. And I love the line she says. She says, if you fit into my pants, I'll kill myself. That makes me laugh.
A great line. A great line.
And then she goes and tells the boss the next day, I'm having an affair with his brother. And he says, Lucy, you're born into a family. You do not join them like you do the Marines. Pull the plug.
More great dialogue.
Yeah. And you're cheating on a vegetable. So that's really funny. And then you get the great scene between with Peter and Jack. Well, Jack is there, Peter's in the coma still. They're playing cards, and he says, I was never envious of anything that you had until now. So he's feeling it, and that's building this romantic tension. What's going to happen? And it's just so fun. And all right.
Yeah, I mean that is what you want in a romantic comedy. They're going to get together in the end, but if what you don't know is how it's going to happen, then that makes a great romantic comedy.
Mm-hmm. That's
Too
right.
often we know how it's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not a problem with being predictable. It's about how that almost is there's sort of a comfort level there in the predictability, but it's about how it's going to be executed and how it's going to turn out. And so then we get the dinner scene, which I just love so much. I think it's just about perfect, as you're going to say, as you said. They go from from Ricky Ricardo was Cuban, and then you have the great ones were tall, as Cesar Ramirez was tall. Cesar Ramirez was not Cuban. I didn't say he was Cuban. I said he was tall. And they were talking about the mashed potatoes. And I could never make a good pot roast. You need good beef. Argentina has good beef. Beef and Nazis. John Wayne was tall. Dustin Hoffman was 5'6". Would you want to see Dustin Hoffman save the Alamo? What do you think of that dinner scene?
I love it. It's great. It's again, it's one of the enduring things about this movie is that we love every character. So even though we're getting to know the supporting cast through snippets of dialogue, it's all just super rich, and of course a very talented cast. Even the little sister, is just wonderful.
Yeah. So then next we have the misunderstanding that Mary and her friend overhear Celeste saying, "Are you pregnant?" To Lucy, because she thinks that's why they got engaged. So then Jack hears that, and this is where I get our New Year's part. But then he announces to the New Year's party that you shouldn't be drinking because it's not good for the baby. And that is pretty funny. And we get the whole leaning thing, that he thought that Joe Jr. and her were a couple because he leaned in. And then Joe Jr. says, looks like that guy's leaning in. I mean, but it's true. There's a hug and then there's more. We all know.
There's a lingering, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lean. And so that's really good. And they have a kind of a fight. And so spending a week with my family does not make you an expert on them. And spending a lifetime with them doesn't make you one either. And he says, I do know that keeping a family gets complicated. And she says, would your father be happy knowing you're sitting in a token booth planning vacations that you're not taking? And then she says, you have no idea what it's like to be alone. Which again goes back to the sort of theme of the movie and makes you really root for her character. And this is when Peter wakes up. And they think that he has amnesia because he doesn't remember Lucy. Uh, and then they have their conversation in the car, and he says, I'm really glad you won't be alone anymore. So that's really sweet. And I love this next scene between Jack and his dad. I think it's so well written. It says, you work hard, try to provide for the family, and then for 1 minute, everything is good. Everyone is well. Everyone is happy. In that moment, you have peace. And then he says, Pop, this isn't that minute. And I love that because it's true that that you have those moments with a family or a group of friends or whatever in life where it feels like, oh, this is the perfect moment. And then something like this happens. Pop, that's not that moment. I love that.
It's great.
And so then you have Saul giving Peter the "You're a putz" speech, and then then we get Ashley is back in the picture, the fiance, Ashley Bartlett Bacon. She's the most over the top character, of course, in the movie.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, but I think she's funny.
She's fun, and she's a necessary element, but I agree with you. She's probably the most underwritten character because she's kind of just one note.
Yeah. Yeah, and so then Peter and Jack are talking, and he says, I know there's something special about Lucy. And he says, I'd say that she gets under your skin as soon as you meet her. She drives you so nuts you don't know whether to hug her or just really arm wrestle her. She would go all the way to Europe just to get a stamp in her passport. I don't know if that amounts to insanity or just being really, really likable. Mm-hmm. So, and then we get Ashley confronting Peter, and when he says, I want my stuff back. That's a pretty funny line. And then Peter proposes to her, and I think that's it. It's just things are mounting, the pressure, and she really should have told sooner, but it's just like things are getting out of control. And her boss is the coma guy. You're marrying the coma guy. And I love how they staged the wedding, because you have both men looking at her right in front, right next to each other. And so it just makes it a really fun scene. She finally fesses up, and she says, I fell in love with you. Dad says, you fell in love with me? No, all of you. And I went from being all alone to being a fiance, a daughter, a granddaughter, a sister, and a friend. I might have saved your life on the tracks that day, but you really saved mine. You allowed me to be part of your family, and I haven't had that in a really long time. And so you think that she's lost it all, and you're feeling sad for half a second. And then we get you see in the token slot, you see the ring, and they're all there smiling. And then he proposes, and it is such a great ending. I love the ending.
Yes, and again, that the whole family is there, right? She gets, she's getting the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, and I love that. And I don't know, it's just so cute. I love that he has the ring there in the token slot, and he gave her the world. He took her to Florence, and that's what her dad had said that her mom had done, that her mom gave him the world. And so it's kind of going back to that beginning.
Full
And
circle.
yeah, and it's great. I absolutely love it. I would give it a 5 crowns, perfect, my highest rating. I think it's great. I really, really, really love it.
Yeah,
And
it really is a perfect movie.
mhm.
Um, and it's one of those things, you summed it up nicely at the beginning, because even when you put it in to watch it again, if you've watched it a bunch of times, which most of us, even those listening, probably have,
Mhm.
you think, okay, I know what this is going to be. I know what the experience is going to be, and I'm going to enjoy it. So let me just
Yeah.
press play. But you discover new things about it, or things that you forgot, or little quiet moments amidst the funny, over the top, chaotic ones. And that's what makes a really special movie. And gosh darn it, by the end, when that ring falls into the slot, you are just swooning,
Yeah. Yeah. And they didn't waste any time with belabored, oh, how could she lie to me kind of thing. They just went right from her confession to him proposing. And that I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, absolutely. But they were the same at the beginning too, right? It wasn't 10 minutes of showing us why she's lonely, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was it we were off to the races.
Right.
And
Yeah.
there's just really, it's a really lean movie in that way. There's no scene that doesn't belong in there.
Yeah. Very, very true. Well, it was a great choice to talk about for New Year's. So let us know if you're listening what you think about While You Were Sleeping and what your preview snowflake rating is for the New Year's new movies, films. We'd love to hear in the comments section or on Twitter. And Greg, where can people follow you on social media, all that fun stuff?
On Instagram and Twitter, I am at Gregg McBride, GreggMcBride. And as Rachel warned you, you will see pictures of my dog and cat because I'm that person.
Yeah. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really, really appreciate it. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We also have our Patreon group, as we mentioned earlier, and we have our merch store, which has tons of fun designs. So please check that out as well. And thanks again, Greg. This is always so great. I look forward to it every holiday season. And
It's my honor to be here. I love you guys. You guys are so great to me, and just such a beautiful community, and we need that right now. So thank you, Rachel, and happy New Year to everyone,
yes.
and to the whole Hallmarkies podcast crew. You guys are all great.
Yeah. Happy New Year 2021. It can't be worse.
Please,
2020, right?
we need a 5 snowflake year to anyone listening.
That's right. That's right. All right. Bye, everyone.